The lesson is that you should do unto otters as you would have otters do unto you. It's that simple.
You should do unto otters, yes, otters, as you would have otters do unto you. The otter in question is the sea otter, a small, friendly-looking creature found only off the Pacific coast of North America. Who would think the ancestors of this playful creature would have such an important role in the making of what we know today as Alaska, a curiously Russian outpost of the United States of America. The sea otter's natural home is that vast ocean which separates the two nations, but which came so close to linking them. When, 250 years ago, the Russians began to hunt the sea otter for its luxurious pelt, they followed it eastwards until they reached the Alaskan coast. Imagine several thousand miles from home, and the Cossacks are trapped by greed in one of the most inhospitable areas of the world. No easy landing places, deathly cold waters, glaciers coming right down to the sea. A no man's land, except for the 20 native tribes of Indians and Eskimos. America to the south, still forming as a nation, had certainly given it little thought. For 100 years, the Russians persevered, making fortunes, capturing the little sea otter and selling its fur, the thickest of any mammal, to China. In return, they carried home shiploads of tea, the new must-have drink in Moscow. They colonized first the offshore islands, brutally forcing the native Aleutians to be their sea otter hunters. But word got out about the golden fleece on offer, and the Americans did finally come north to see for themselves. A Cold War threatened, but a deal was struck, and the Russian-American Company was formed at the start of the 19th century to sell even more sea otters to the Chinese. It was led by one Alexander Baranov, who set up HQ here on Kodiak Island. The Russians took the New Deal as a passport to spread further down the coast. But now they had to blast their way ashore, facing the wrath of the native tribes. If Alaska was anyone's, it was theirs, not these wild Russians from across the sea.
They destroyed the people, they destroyed people's culture. The society that was created here was based on slavery, indentured servitude.
Unfazed, they moved HQ south to Sitka, where the Russian-American Trading Company still exists today.
I think because the Russians were only here to extract wealth from the area, I think the assumption was once the wealth was gone, they would leave, they would depart. So I don't think that this was ever envisioned as a long colony, say in the sense that the British would have perceived India or South Africa. This was a short-term, ephemeral venture.
And so it was. The poor sea otter was hunted right down to Southern California and almost to extinction. The desperate Russians tried to hunt wildlife in the bleak hinterland, but found the wildlife better adapted than they were. By the mid-1860s, they were looking for a buyer for their colony, and found few takers apart from the newly confident United States. The price, $7 million, less than 2 cents an acre. But many Americans were dumbfounded. Why on earth pay anything for just a huge lump of ice? They ignored it for 30 years, until in 1898 they suddenly realized it might be worth more, much more than $7 million. And so a new invasion began of this unsullied land. They came north in their thousands, from Seattle, from California, from all along the western seaboard. Prospectors looking for their own golden fleece in the Klondike Gold Rush. They arrived here at Skagway with their life's belongings, and in their innocence they set off up 2 trails heading towards the wild Yukon just over the border in Canada. Skagway built a town to get them started. And it's still there today, preserved virtually in aspic. In the time of one generation, Alaska had gone from being Russia to being the Wild West. They even built a train up from the town to the White Pass and down to the Yukon. And that's still there today, for tourists to take a short trip back in time. For $90 or £60, the 3-hour journey up to the pass and back is enough to understand the hardships awaiting those early Klondike pioneers. Before the railway, these hopeful dreamers from the sunny south had to climb every step amid the snowy wastes. Up to 35 feet of snow falls up here in the winter. The railway was financed by British money, for while the Russians had spent 150 years colonizing the coast, the British had pioneered west through the virgin lands of Canada, setting up a series of trading posts. The train was to be their route to more wealth by providing for the newly rich prospectors. But was the train perhaps jumping the gun? Once over the pass, the adventurers came to a river and had to build boats to get them the remaining 250 miles to the goldfields at Dawson City. It is estimated that of 250,000 prospectors who sailed into Skagway, only a few thousand ever reached the gold, and very few of those were able to make the struggle worthwhile. Today, this historic route of tunnels and flimsy bridges, forged by equally tough men out of nothing, is among the 29 World Heritage construction sites, along with the Eiffel Tower and the Panama Canal. Unfortunately, the Klondike Gold Rush ended after only 2 years, before the railway was even finished. A better strike drew everybody elsewhere, to the west coast of Alaska itself. The train did make its money by serving the hinterland until the 1980s. And as today's tourists return from the 2,800-foot White Pass, twice as fast as they went up, the cemetery tells its story of this Alaskan venture. the Americans had finally noticed Alaska at least, and began some small modernization. The Second World War speeded further development for a string of Pacific naval bases. But Alaska was still only a colony or protectorate, and didn't become a full-blown state until 1959. Resentment at this slow recognition simmers on still, and signs of Alaskans' Russian past cling on everywhere. It might have been so different. The Russians would probably have given the British first option on Alaska if the British hadn't been their enemy in the Crimea at the time.
The British had an interesting role in Alaska. If the British had had fewer distractions, I think they would have conquered this area. I think without a doubt they were the strongest nation. They had already a substantial history in colonization. They knew how to do it.
Even now, the US government uses Alaska to extract oil, minerals and salmon with comparatively little investment. The Russian Orthodox Church is strong everywhere. The sea otter has made a dramatic comeback off the coast. But alas for Alaska, it is still a land that nobody cares much about.